the mainstream media that is owned by these same globalists, they use the same talking points. They keep going on and on and on about it, and it's part of mind control agenda. It really is all mind control. They're really doing a number on the public, and they're training people, the military and stuff, for domestic protests and stuff on our ground. There used to be a posse comitatus, which forbid the military from performing domestic duties. That got flushed down the toilet along with the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, everything else that they're crapping all over. They got checkpoints now, immigration, they're tasering people. The police state's here, okay? We really are living under martial law. We have been since 9/11. It should be revisited every 6 months, and it hasn't been revisited once. Well, here we go. We got Fort Lee training exercise deals with mock protesters. Fort Lee has come out of Richmond Dispatch. Motorists along State Route 36 just outside Fort Lee slowed down yesterday morning to take a peek at the soldiers in full gear guarding the main gate. Fort Lee law enforcement, civilian, and military personnel were simulating a protest as part of a 3-day anti-terrorism and force protection exercise at the Army base. I mean, this is just not happening here at Fort Lee. It's happening all over the country, including other countries. There's reports out right now from Canada where they're training for in Washington for troops to invade Afghanistan and putting on a mock show. It's all a mock show. It's all a game. Shakespeare was right, The world's a stage. We're all just little players in it, okay? We're living in a matrix. We're living in a matrix, a made-up world, and that's really the hardest thing that we're going to be able to do, to convince our fellow man about what we're saying is the truth. Is that nobody wants to admit that they've been duped. Nobody wants to admit that the wool's been pulled over their eyes. No one wants to admit that the reality that they've been led to believe is real their whole lives is nothing but a sham, and it's nothing but an illusion. That's really the hardest part, is convincing people that it's okay to admit that you've been bamboozled. It's okay, because only when we do that can we find out exactly what reality is and start getting our country, our world back. It's not just about restoring the public here. It's about giving humanity a chance. Giving humanity a chance. The Homeland Security. Remember, I was just talking about this Homeland Security that was set up to fight the terrorists. Remember, Al-Qaeda? Or Al-Qaeda? Because that's really who created it. Homeland Security called to catch a bank robber. Yep. Just so all them people that were calling me names back when Homeland Security was created, and they were calling me a kook and stuff because I said this is the new Gestapo, and they're going to use this for us domestically. There you go. There you go. Read it for yourself. This come out, it was posted at 12160.org. Gun owners, watch out. Gun confiscation is beginning. In November, our lying president promised he would not be going after the Second Amendment rights. This bill was introduced on February 21st. It's Senate Bill 2099. That's SB 2099. You can read it. There's links to it in this article. The bill was introduced. It's become public knowledge. It will become public knowledge 30 days after it is voted into law. This is an amendment to the Internal Revenue Act of 1986. This means that the Finance Committee can pass this without the Senate voting on it at all. Just another one of them ways to get around public exposure. And most of these bills don't even get read anyway. The Patriot Act wasn't allowed to be read. Ron Paul told us that, and it's good that we do have just a small handful of good men and women in there that are reporting to us what is going on in Congress. Ron Paul, Republican from Texas, former presidential candidate, is one of them people. A lot of good information can be found about him at campaignforliberty.org or .com, campaignforliberty.com. If you don't remember, you can go to harrythomas.info, click on the banner I got. But this is a firearms confiscation bill. If it passes, gun owners will become criminals if you don't fully comply. If you want to find out about this, you can Google HR 45 or HR 45 Blair Holt. So, Obama's approval ratings are going down. They said that he's going to need some kind of crisis to get his health care passed. He's going to need a lot more than a crisis. They're pushing the one world agenda, one world government agenda. That's obviously clear. We got many prominent figureheads like Kissinger and others calling for it, saying that there will be a new world order, whether by conquest or complete submission. They're going to do it anyway. Kissinger said that Obama was the perfect puppet in place to usher in the new world order. So everybody who has been watching this, what's going on, and has been paying attention to what's going on, is waiting for the next government-sponsored terror event, the next fear-based campaign. There is two things that are going on right now, it's the last two things I'm going to cover tonight, that I believe are number one and number two of part of their game plan, of what they're going to try to do to scare the public into submission. That one is the economy, crashing the economy. The other card that they could have play that they've really been working up is the swine flu vaccine, the pandemic, manufactured pandemic, I might add. I want to get into this one first. This come out of CNBC, August 27, 2009. 1,000 banks to fail in the next 2 years. The U.S. banking system will lose some 1,000 institutions over the next 2 years, says John Canis, whose private equity firm bought Bank United in Florida in May. And we've seen this before. They run all these small banks out of business, and these New World Order banks, these Illuminati banks, buy them up, consolidate power. We're talking about Chase, Morgan, all them, guys. These rich kooks they're the kooks. Yeah, I said it. They're the ones. They're demented in their mind. Egotistical, maniacal maniacs. They're going to buy up these small banks. They have been. They've been doing this for a while. And if you don't think this is real, CNN reported Saturday, September 5th, 2009, 5 more banks fail, 89 so far in 2009. 5 small regional banks were closed by regulators on Friday evening, pushing 2009's tally so far to 89 institutions. Of the 5 failures, 2 were in Illinois, and there was 1 in Arizona, Iowa, and Missouri each. Customers of the banks, however, are protected. The Federal Deposit Insurance Company, which has insured bank deposits since the Great Depression, covers each customer up to $250,000. Well, that sounds great and that sounds dandy and all, but it's not true. It's not true. Each one of them people cannot possibly be covered up to $250,000 because the FDIC, the insurance company that is supposed to protect the consumers, they don't have the money. They don't have the money, and they're asking for a bailout. Another bailout, like the banker bailout, the takeover. They don't even tell you what they did with the money. If you split that money up to every American, men and women over 18, we would be bailed out. We would be paying off our mortgages. We would be investing in the economy. The economy would be booming again if they would just bail us out instead of these elitists. Incredible. And they try to say, they try to make people feel good in this mainstream CNN article, saying, don't worry about it. They're insured by the FDIC. When Wall Street Journal reported the coming deposit insurance bailout, we're referring to the Federal Deposit Insurance Fund, the FDIC, which has been shrinking faster than reservoirs in the California drought. The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation reported late last week that the fund that insures some $4.5 trillion in U.S. bank deposits fell to $10.4 billion at the end of June. As the list of failing banks continues to grow, the fund was $45.2 billion a year ago. Now it's down to $10.4 billion. But they're trying to cover $4.5 trillion. They don't have it. The Federal Reserve just prints money out of thin air. You know? Ron Paul, the congressman I was just talking about, he wants to pass a bill that would give the